All right, welcome back, writers. In today's explainer, we're taking that messy, chaotic first draft of yours and transforming it into a polished masterpiece that truly reflects your unique cultural identity. Look, we all know the absolute euphoria of typing the end, right? You've poured your heart out onto the page, you've built an entire world from scratch, and you've breathed life into your characters. It feels incredible. But, well, after a few days, you read it back, and that initial high almost always gives way to a pretty daunting realization. The real hard work is actually just beginning. As literally any professional writer will tell you, the true magic of storytelling happens in the rewrite. That messy first draft, it's just raw clay. So today we're going to break down the exact step-by-step strategies you need to elevate your script from a rough, unshaped concept into a tight, production-ready piece of art.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting 5 key stops. First up is the post-draft journey. Second, revising for the big picture. Third, editing to trim the fat. Fourth, the magic of word choice. And finally, publishing your story.
Let's kick things off with part 1, the post-draft journey.
Let's just acknowledge an important truth right out of the gate here. Finishing your first draft is a massive accomplishment, but it's just the starting line. It is completely 100% normal for a first draft to be flawed, overwritten, or kind of disjointed. Think of it like this. Your draft is a foundation. It's not the finished house. Now it's time to actually build upon it. We need to enhance the coherence, clarify the meaning, and most importantly, ensure your cultural identity really shines through. We have to push way past the basic mechanics of just getting words onto a page. Enhancing coherence means asking yourself if the emotional journey actually tracks logically from scene A to scene B. Clarifying meaning requires you to take a step back and ask, okay, what am I actually trying to say here? Our ultimate goal is to make sure your script truly captures the sociocultural issues you want to share with your audience. And to do that, you've got to dig deeper than surface-level stereotypes or predictable plots. You have to weave your cultural truths into the very fabric of the story, into the character motivations, and into those central conflicts. We want your audience to feel something undeniably real.
Which brings us right into part 2, revising, and looking at the big picture.
This phase is all about the big picture and the technical imagination of your story. We are officially transitioning into being the structural architects of our script. We have to look at the entire framework before we even think about touching a comma or fixing a spelling mistake. And one of the absolutely vital concepts here is something called the unity of effect. As defined by author David Madden, this basically means every single element of your story must interact with and enhance the others. Let's make this concrete. Imagine you have this beautifully written 3-page scene where your protagonist has a hilarious, witty conversation with a local barista. The dialogue snaps, it's funny, you absolutely love it, but does it advance the plot? Does it reveal a deep, hidden truth about the protagonist's inner conflict? Well, if the answer is no, it violates the unity of effect. If a scene, a character, or even a piece of dialogue doesn't connect to the main narrative and enhance the overall experience, it becomes irrelevant. And if it's irrelevant, you have to be ruthless. It has to go. Despite all your scene transitions, that core connectedness must remain constantly pulsing throughout the entire script.
Building right on top of that is the concept of simultaneity. This emphasizes the inevitability of a scene, and honestly, it's a total game changer for your writing. Simultaneity means everything happens exactly as it has to, because it simply must happen that way. When all the elements, the setting, the tone, the character's core motivation, the dialogue, when they all converge perfectly in a single moment, they are all active in the reader's consciousness at the exact same time. Think about a great climax in your absolute favorite movie. When it happens, you don't feel like the writer forced it, right? You feel like the characters drove themselves to that exact point. It feels inevitable. Creating this requires you to carefully plant narrative seeds throughout your earlier scenes. If a character is going to make a massive sacrifice in Act 3, we need to feel the weight of their selflessness building simultaneously in Acts 1 and 2. When these elements layer on top of each other seamlessly, it creates a feeling of inevitability that hooks your audience and absolutely refuses to let them go. If you have a scene that feels random or fails to establish that unavoidable feeling, you need to revise its foundation or just remove it entirely.
So how do we actually put on our structural architect hard hats and achieve this? We ask ourselves some really specific, probing questions. First off, look at your characters and the catalyst, the inciting incident. Is it strong enough to produce a real burning need for your protagonist? Because if your catalyst is weak, your entire second act is going to sag since the character lacks the drive to overcome their obstacles. Furthermore, does your protagonist's action actually produce conflict? Let's talk about the passive protagonist for a second. Imagine a character who just sits back and lets the plot happen to them, reacting to events rather than driving them. The story drags, the energy dies, and your audience totally checks out. Contrast that with a protagonist who actively makes bold choices, makes catastrophic mistakes, and forces the plot forward. That creates rich, engaging conflict. Then look at your settings. Do your locations express the exact feeling tone you want for your film? Think about it. A devastating breakup scene hits very differently in a crowded, noisy subway station than it does in a stark, dead silent, empty apartment. Think about how sound or specific imagery can massively enhance that tone. And finally, look at your structure backwards. Does the climax of your story satisfyingly arc back to that original catalyst? Every single element must pull its weight. Your characters and settings need to work hard to earn their place on the page.
All right, moving on to part 3, editing, or as I like to call it, trimming the fat.
Once those big structural pieces are locked in and you're confident your story works on a macro level, we transition from being structural architects to meticulous, detail-oriented technicians. Writer Brad Smith has this brilliant analogy. He says, imagine ordering a steak at a restaurant. If it arrived consisting of half fat, bone, and gristle, you'd send it back immediately. Well, the exact same is true for your writing. You must cut away anything that is not pure meat before you serve it to your audience. We are essentially stepping into the role of literary butchers here. And yeah, this can be painful. As writers, we often fall in love with our own clever sentences, our poetic monologues, or our beautifully descriptive paragraphs. But guess what? That's the gristle. If that clever sentence slows down the pacing of the script, or if that monologue over-explains an emotion the actor could convey with a simple look, you have to be ruthless and cut it. Your goal in this phase is to streamline, check your grammar, and trim away the non-essentials so you can say infinitely more with less.
The crucial point here is that being concise is literally always better than being wordy. Consider those clunky, bureaucratic phrases that just bog down your dialogue. Instead of forcing an actor to awkwardly spit out, "due to the fact that I am leaving," just let them simply say, "because I'm leaving," or "since I'm leaving." Replace a phrase like "she moved in a quick manner" with the much sharper "she moved quickly." Instead of having a character announce, "regardless of the fact that it is raining," just write, "although it's raining." This isn't just about saving physical ink and space on the page. Human beings do not speak in bloated, academic sentences when they're emotional or under pressure. Using short, punchy, concise sentences will massively help your actors. It allows them to breathe naturally, find the rhythm of the scene, and deliver the dialogue in a way that feels incredibly human, grounded, and real.
Trimming the fat naturally leads us into part 4, the magic of word choice.
Now that we've removed the unnecessary clutter, we need to make sure the words that remain are the absolute best, most impactful choices possible. Let's look at the difference between lazy writing and vivid writing. Take a common cliché like, "Aunt Betty is as old as the hills." It's stale, it's totally overused, and worse, it gives the reader absolutely zero visual information to work with. Now contrast that with something like, "Aunt Betty's face was wrinkled like a bulldog's, and when she forgot her false teeth, her face almost folded in half." I mean, wow, right? Why rely on a tired cliché when you can write a vivid, highly specific description like that? Yes, it takes up a few more words, but it is laser precise. Think about the production team reading this script. This immediately sparks inspiration. It gives the casting director exactly what to look for, and it hands the makeup artists the exact visual blueprint they need to physically bring your character to life on screen. To sum up this entire idea of word choice, there's a brilliant observation from Mark Twain. He said, "The difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and the lightning bug." Finding that lightning word conveys the exact emotion, theme, and tone required for your story. It literally crackles with energy. So ask yourself, are you settling for lightning bugs in your script just to get to the end of the page? Because when you take the time to find the lightning and your characters deliver lines crafted with the perfect, most potent words available, it elevates the entire production. It gives your actors the best possible material to work with, allowing them to truly shine.
And finally, we arrive at part 5, publishing your story.
After all that incredible hard work, the intense structural revising, the brutal literary butchering, and the careful selection of every single lightning word, we reach the absolute climax of your writing journey. It is time to share your fully revised and polished script with the world. This is the moment your cultural identity and your hard work finally meet the audience. You have some really fantastic options for getting your work out there, and choosing the right platform matters depending on who you want to reach. Step 1 is making that choice. If you want a massive, global reach, Step 2 involves using digital publishing. You can upload your script or your filmed short to social media platforms like YouTube or Facebook to spark immediate community engagement, or use a school website to share it with your academic peers. But what if you're submitting to a prestigious contest, or a conservative production house, or maybe digital access is just a challenge? That brings us to Step 3. You can print a beautifully formatted, properly labeled physical portfolio of the script. Handing someone a physical, weighty copy of your masterpiece, that is an incredibly valid, tactile way to share your unique voice.
Which brings us to our final and honestly most important thought. The entire purpose of this meticulous process is to ensure your voice is heard clearly. A messy first draft is just a conversation with yourself, but a masterfully edited script, that's a conversation with the world. So now that your script is perfectly polished and rigorously edited, how will your story spark conversations? What is the one truth about your culture, your society, or your lived experience that you are finally ready to make the world listen to? The world is definitely waiting for your unique perspective. So take these tools, refine your drafts, find your lightning words, and go make an impact.